Welcome to our Wednesday 큐티사랑. I hope you guys are having a great week so far, and I hope you guys are not too stressed out by finals, projects, and end of the year school stuff. And I pray that as you spend time with God in the Word and in prayer, that it would encourage you and that you would be refreshed in your souls. So let's get started. The passage we're going to be reading from today is Acts 17, verses 22 through 29. So Paul, standing in the midst of the Areopagus, said, "Men of Athens, I perceive that in every way you are very religious. For as I passed along and observed the objects of your worship, I found also an altar with this inscription, 'To the unknown God.' What therefore you worship as unknown, this I proclaim to you. The God who made the world and everything in it, being Lord of heaven and earth, does not live in temples made by man, nor is he served by human hands as though he needed anything, since he himself gives to all mankind life and breath and everything. And he made from one man every nation of mankind to live on earth, on all the face of the earth, having determined allotted periods and the boundaries of their dwelling place, that they should seek God and perhaps feel their way toward him and find him. Yet he is actually not far from each one of us, for in him we live and move and have our being, as even some of your own poets have said, for we are indeed his offspring. Being then God's offspring, we ought not to think that the divine being is like gold or silver or stone, an image formed by the art and imagination of man." So here in this passage, we see Paul speaking to the people in Athens in a marketplace. And at that time, idol worship was really rampant throughout the city of Athens. They worshipped many different false gods. And as Paul walked through the streets of Athens, he saw statues, temples, and altars that were built to the numerous gods that they served. And it was to these people that were serving these idols that Paul begins to speak the truth about who God really is, who they should really be serving and worshiping. And if we break down Paul's speech and what Paul has shared through today's passage, we can find about 3 truths about God. And I wanted to share these truths. The first one is this, that God doesn't live in these temples built by man. That God doesn't live in buildings that are built by man. In Athens, there were many statues and temples, like I said, built for each and every one of their gods that they believed in. But Paul says that the God that we serve is the God who made the world and everything in it, in verse 24. He is not trapped in some space. But those people, they put their idols, their false gods in the temples, and they would come to the temples to worship them. And Paul shares that the God that you should be serving, the God that we serve, he rules over the world because he is the Lord of heaven and earth. God doesn't live in the church building either. Because, we come and gather together in the church building to worship, we can easily fall into the trap of thinking that God is only here inside the church. But the truth is that he lives in each and every one of us. He's not limited and restricted by space. And the second truth that Paul shares with them is this, that God doesn't need anything from us because everything comes from him. Life and breath and everything, verse 25 says. As the Athenians worshipped different idols, they would bring things on the altar to please their gods. It was like a payment to get on their good side and to ensure that nothing bad would happen to them. So they would bring different things and they would offer them up on the altar in hopes of being blessed by the gods that they were worshiping. But the God we serve, he doesn't actually need anything. When we bring him offering, it's not because we need to give him a certain payment to bless us, and it's not because he needs money from us, but when we give to him and when we bring our offering to God, it's to thank him and to acknowledge that he really is the giver of all things, and everything that we have is his. And so Paul was sharing this truth with the people in Athens, saying that God doesn't need anything from us. Everything belongs to him. And that's the God that you should be serving, not these other false gods, not these false idols who are asking for things from you. And the third truth that Paul shares is this, that God is a personal being. He is not gold or silver or stone or some sort of an image from imagination of man. Verse 29 says, God is a real personal being who created us. And we are his offspring, created to live in relationship with him. And verse 27 says, he is not far from each one of us. So Paul was sharing this truth with the Athenians, saying that, these idols that you've made with gold, silver, and stone, they're beautiful. But they're just images made by man. It's not God. And he was saying that the real God that you should be serving, that you should be worshiping, he is a real personal being who is not an image formed by man. And so I pray that we would also remember and stand firm on these truths. And just as Paul used this opportunity he had in the marketplace to share the truth of who God really is with the people who are spiritually lost, worshiping different idols, false gods, I pray that we would also look for opportunities in our daily to bring truth of who God really is to our friends and to the people around us. And so that's the word of encouragement for us today. I pray that we would remember it and live it out with the power that the Holy Spirit gives us.